Welcome to the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast.
Every week, they talk about the Vancouver Canucks with a fair amount of nonsense thrown in.
Sure, they're never the first with the news, nor the best connected, and definitely more off the rails than on.
But they've been talking puck the longest, and that counts for something, right?
So strap in for the longest running, best mediocre Canucks Hockey Podcast.
It's C4 with Chris and Anna.
Welcome back, Anna.
Wow, that was it. Yeah. Thank you. It's good to be here. Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to all our listeners. Yeah, I'm back, baby.
You know, I've missed you the whole time that you left me all on my lonesome. It was just, I mean, yeah, I had sat and I had JJ to join me and you know, dopped in for our, holiday live show.
Mm-hmm. And you also had the distraction of Christmas and New Year with your friends and family.
Well, you had Christmas and New Year with friends and family too, so don't you be dropping that on me.
Yeah, I'm just saying you weren't all by yourself the whole time.
All by myself. Mm-hmm. You know who else is probably all by themselves right now? JT and Petey.
Yeah, in their lonesome little hotel rooms in Montreal.
Like yeah, well, okay. We're going to get into all sorts of stuff because when you left to go back home, things were kind of weird.
Yeah, but
and the Canucks were like,
it got weirder.
Let's see what we can do to make Anna's life all that much more interesting. From afar, like I can't begin to understand what's been going on.
Yeah. It's been a lot of stuff and things.
Did you wake up early or stay up late to watch any of the hijinks?
Well, I watched the two 9 p.m. games because, I mean, what a treat that there were two 9 p.m. UK time.
Okay, so I was going to say, we had no 9 p.m. games.
Yeah. But, that was unusual that there were two 1 p.m. Pacific time starts.
Seattle and Detroit?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was struggling with the Detroit game because that was only a couple days in, so I was still with the jet lag. But I did watch till the end, just about, of both, sadly. But yeah, I do remember the Seattle game. My mom went to bed somewhere in the second period. She was up reading. And she was just like, oh, you said it, they're winning 4-1. That's great. Well done, Canucks, for winning 4-1. And I was like, yeah, that's not what happened, actually.
Well, they were winning at 1.41. Let's be very clear.
Yeah.
They were winning 4-1 with less than 5 minutes in the game. They were winning 4-2 with less than 2 minutes in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyhow, when you left, the Vancouver Canucks had a blue line. I mean, and that's being generous.
Yeah, because Hronek was already out at this point.
Yeah, man, my goodness, all sorts of stuff has happened. And
what
I guess
a new year it is already.
Yeah, it's time for you and I to get into it. So the Vancouver Canucks have continued their weird ways since I spoke to JJ, and I understand. That episode for our regular listeners was kind of different, but it's been a while since JJ and I had the ability to shoot the proverbial. And aside from him being very disappointed that Anna wasn't there to, talk with us, because I think he prefers talking to you, Anna, than to me.
Well, that's not true, but I do love hanging out with JJ, so.
We had sort of wondered, like, hey, what's going to go on in Vancouver Canucks land? And hey, surprise, I want to say not what we expected, but it was totally what JJ and I had expected. So we'll get into the week that was. The Vancouver Canucks are on the road. We're going to get the week that will be. We're going to talk about Elliot Friedman just taking Canucks Nation for a journey. A journey that you have to pack for every possible circumstance.
Yeah.
All the weather. Maybe there's no weather.
So true.
We're going to get into all of that and a whole lot more. So, seeing as this episode's jam-packed, let's dive into Rewind. The Vancouver Canucks found themselves in Calgary for New Year's Eve and decided to throw one heck of a party. Well, I mean, okay.
It was a party in the penalty box.
It certainly was. Apparently, there were free drinks or something like that. I mean,
There are. It's water and Gatorade, but yeah.
It's busy on White Avenue. Is it White Avenue in Calgary?
I've heard of that, but I think that's Edmonton. Okay. Sorry, well, I don't know.
Whatever the go-to street is in Calgary, ain't no party like a penalty box party, though. Brock Besser got a goal, and the pop that we heard in the Saddle Dome was surreal. I commented on social media, like, how many Canucks fans actually found their way to Calgary for New Year's Eve? Like, I was not expecting that. But that was about the only good to come out of that game.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, side note, brave Canucks fans,
going to Calgary?
In December?
Well, okay, how many of them are people who have moved to Calgary?
I mean, I will say it's more common the other direction because Alberta sucks. But, Alberta does have lower cost of living.
Okay, first of all, our
Shout out to our friends in Alberta.
They're top notch. And is not talking about our Albertan friends or Albertan listeners and their families for the most part.
But, that commercial that used to run on the radio where they'd be like, Alberta is calling. My response, just hang up. Anyway.
Okay. Well,
loved Calgary. Love you guys.
Yeah, if there's any really good that came out of the game for me was that my hockey pool had a couple flames.
That's
giving
nice.
me a few extra points, so,
I don't even know if I have any flames on my team, so I don't even have that.
But I didn't get the feeling that the Vancouver Canucks were really in that game to win it.
No, it felt like, and again, I was watching this after the fact, but it felt like a pretty, I don't know, just toothless performance. Maybe that's the way to put it. Like, they had their chances, but none of them were like, oh, that was like an almost goal. It was just, didn't feel like they were challenging Calgary that much, at least at 5-on-5.
Yeah, and I understand when Besser tied it up, when he scores, he ties it up. The Canucks were in that game.
Yeah,
but
technically.
It didn't, I don't recall there being ever any sort of grade A scoring opportunities for the Canucks.
No.
But I can recall a handful for the Flames. And,
yes, and Lackluster was there to snuff a bunch out.
Lankinen, to his credit, was the reason why the Vancouver Canucks stayed in that game. One other thing I don't quite understand is all the emotion that we saw in the second period. The Vancouver Canucks, to their credit, with 17 players in the penalty box, all of which happen to be defensemen, did kill off those penalties-ish. But the problem sort of, was, again, not generating that opportunity. I mean, the blue line was anchored by Tyler Myers. Quinn Hughes
which already is, terrifying. That's a terrifying sentence.
Right? When I was talking to JJ, I'm like, what do you think of the blue line when its top line is a third line pairing, and then everything else below that is AHL caliber? It's scary. Tyler, I'm going to, yes, he's done some weird things, set up a two-man breakaway in overtime, but he has looked better in his newly elevated, you're probably the only defenseman we've got role.
We have to admit that as terrified as we were to see Tyler Myers leading the blue line, he has looked better under pressure than I would expect.
Yeah. But they lose in Calgary. They then find themselves headed down to Seattle, where, for one reason or another, the Vancouver Canucks have this thing with the Kraken as of late. They score goals, they get leads, but for some reason they don't recall that's, it's not like first to three.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain. We saw this while you were away, and lo and behold, the Vancouver Canucks found a way to allow the Seattle Kraken to get back in the game in the third period. Now, in fairness, they only allowed one goal in the final 5 minutes, but that one goal was what was sufficient enough to get the Kraken tied up. I don't know what the Canucks did in overtime because, very honest, I wasn't expecting them to get it to the shootout. And in the shootout, thank goodness for Lackluster, who stood on his head.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Canucks now give up another multi-goal lead in the third period, and it was to the same team. Yeah. Well, I'll be honest, like, Noah Juleson and taking up that much time on defense, like, terrifies me. Like, and this is not, like, it's weird to be, like, yelling at Noah Juleson about this, but, like, because of the lack of defense, we're having to, like, and he's just really missing his mark, he's missing his man.
He's not missing goaltenders wearing Canucks jerseys.
Yeah, he loves to block a goalie, and it's just like
Also run into them.
Yeah, I know.
Which
I could
we
not
haven't-
believe
we
Rafe
haven't touched on yet.
and Noah Juleson definitely touched on Thatcher Demko. Yeah, I could not believe Ray Ferrar's Noah Juleson's had a good game. I'm like, he took out our goalie, recently returned from injury goalie. He has not had a good game. I want to introduce you to the phrase, I don't know if you've heard of it, the best defense is good offense. How about a defenseman that can break the puck out of his zone? You know, maybe an Eric Branston, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently not if you're Rick Tocchet.
No. Well, we're going to talk about more of this stuff and half full, half empty. But you are raising a good point. The Vancouver Canucks blue line ain't looking so hot, and players who we've seen good things from.
In limited roles.
Yeah, not finding an opportunity to, or not getting the opportunity to elevate their game.
Yeah.
But the Vancouver Canucks, they take a lead, 7:49 in the third period. Connor Garland scores a goal, puts the team ahead. In the second period, not third period.
Yes.
And during the celebration, Thatcher Demko skates to the bench, and Kevin Lankinen comes in. And so, what is going on? At first, there was some belief that maybe it's a Luongo, right? I mean...
Yeah, like, everyone prayed for a Luongo.
Happens.
It does.
Mm-hmm. But as we learned post-game, back spasms. Do you believe it?
We have to, because the alternative is terrifying.
Like, I'm not against believing it, but when you look at the Juleson collision, when Thatcher's getting up, he's not sort of holding his back or his hips. He is holding the knee.
Yeah. I've already forgotten Rob Williams, introducing us to what it's actually called.
Popolitis
the Greek-sounding thing.
Yeah. Bob's your uncle? He busted his
Bob's my
your uncle.
dad. But, yeah.
Bob's your dad muscle?
Yeah. It's, we really just got to pray he's okay. That's all we can do, because, and let's be honest, Kevin Lankinen came in cold, did extremely well.
Kevin Lankinen is the reason the Vancouver Canucks
win. Yeah,
get that win, and he was pumped in the shootout. I actually was kind of wondering, was Seattle talking on the ice or something, because he looked like he had a chip on his shoulder.
I mean, even if you're just looking at the recent history, that's a chip on your shoulder. You've given up another multi-goal lead. I'm sure they're talking some,
but it's not his fault.
No, but that's got to feel good. People were going crazy. The players were really hyped for Lankinen for finishing that off. Quick shout out, because in the first Seattle Kraken game the week before, we literally saw Jessica Campbell, the Kraken assistant coach, draw up the play for the game-tying goal. I don't know if she was as directly involved in the game-tying goal this time round. I actually don't want her. Like, I didn't love that for her because I don't want her to succeed versus the Canucks.
Well, okay, I was gonna like. I've been sitting here wanting to call you out because I don't
Yeah.
care who she is. She is the enemy.
Yes, she is, but
I saw a
we
picture
love
of,
her.
like, I think Megan Rapinoe and Sue Bird were
Awesome.
at a cracking it. Like, and I think we've had the conversation. Like, Megan Rapinoe, I hate her. She's good. Oh, is she good? But every time she played the Canadian women's national
Yeah.
team, I hated her.
Yeah, exactly. And it's totally that. And I think that's honestly such a compliment to Jessica Campbell that I actually hate her at times. And that's because she's
God damn
doing
you for being so good.
But, like, I have seen, just as a side note, some really cool videos of a little mini Kraken fan, a little girl who was super inspired by her, who traded friendship bracelets with her. Yeah, there was a cool video today because the PWHL is on tour right now and they've been in Seattle tonight. They will be in
Shootout.
Vancouver
Did
on
Montreal win
Wednesday.
or did Boston win? I know that.
Boston
I know it went
won.
to a shootout. Boston won. Okay.
Yeah,
So Montreal's up
unfortunately.
here against Toronto, I think.
On Wednesday, and I will be going, so I'm very, very excited. Although my favorite player has yet to play a game this season, still injured. Kennedy Marchment feel better soon, but yeah, Marie-Philippe Poulin, absolute goat. Got to read out the lineup for the Kraken the other day, and it was just very cool. Like, she's played with Jessica Campbell, I think. So, like, yeah, that was a cool moment as well. Yeah. Good on women for succeeding. I would just love it if it didn't have to be at the expense of the Canucks next time.
Yeah. Well, fix that. All right. One final note about the Vancouver Canucks is their schedule is wacky. So they were on the road for a couple of games. They come home for a game against Nashville, a back-to-back.
Yeah, that was fun. Fun for Kevin Lankinen, I'm sure.
Yes, who started. In fairness, that was probably going to be a start for him. He just
Yes.
had not planned to have to come in cold the night
And I don't
before.
think Shilovs had planned to fly from Vancouver to Quebec and back again.
But he was probably, really well dressed throughout. The Vancouver Canucks just looked like they were completely out of gas against the Predators.
Yeah.
And yet, despite that, the Vancouver Canucks were in it until late. Like, it was 2 empty net goals in the third period that, blew
Yeah.
the game open to that 3-0 result.
But you shouldn't be, like, losing 1-0 to the 31st team in the league. Like, you should have, like, the game should be over and done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I will cut the team a little slack because of the fact that it was a back-to-back, and you could just suggest, well, they're just in Seattle. It's not that far. It's just the dynamic of that schedule as it existed for the Vancouver Canucks. Quick road trip, back home for a game, only to head back out on the road again. And, they're one goaltender down. The blue line is still in tatters. One of your top players up front still out. So and the Canucks were hard pressed. There are a couple examples, though, of one of the players we're going to talk about more in the half full, half empty segment. That is very concerning. We're going to refer to a point in the third period at that time. But if you need examples, late in the third period is going to be a real good one to look back to. So the Vancouver Canucks take that L. Despite their mediocre results, still in a playoff spot. Just seems to be the way the NHL West happens to be. But this road trip that they're heading out on east, they take on the Habs Monday afternoon. They're going to then head down to Washington, see the Capitals Friday night or Friday afternoon. It's the Hurricanes. Hockey night in Canada in the center of the universe, Toronto on Saturday. A nice back-to-back. And then we'll record an episode and then play one more on the road in Winnipeg. But this is not a fun road trip with the Vancouver Canucks. It's not a fun road trip for a team who is muddling their way through life as we speak. If there is some positive news to take from it, both Quinn Hughes and Elias Pettersson were back on the ice in Montreal for practice.
Yeah, who
Quinn
knows?
sounds closer.
Yeah, I mean, from all reports, Rick Dhaliwal was saying, like, he actually seems pretty close. and it wasn't
Now,
as serious as they had hoped.
Pretty close or
had
close
thought.
enough to play?
Well, that's the thing. And
The blue line has not been the same in a post-Quinn world.
But, anything hasn't been the same. Like, the Quinn Hughesless Canucks is a terrifying era.
Yeah, when Hughesless, much useless.
Much useless indeed. And, like you said, the schedule gets a lot tougher. Like, if you look back on the games we've just had in the last 2 weeks, those are, stocking stuffers. Those should be games that the Canucks are, piling up the points, This is, you're playing Seattle twice. You're playing Nashville at home. Really, these are games that you should be, Calgary is obviously maybe a little tougher, but, these are games that should have been, this is the time you stockpile the points and get ahead of yourself so that when you come up with road trips like this, you kind of have a cushion. Mm-hmm. But there's no cushion. Canucks is the second wildcard spot.
Yeah. But still in a playoff spot.
Yes, currently.
Wildcard or not. Got to get in it to win it. So looking ahead, top team in the East in Washington. They're playing against the Habs, who are kind of muddling in their own right. You've got Toronto, top team in the East, and Carolina, one of the top teams. So if we were looking ahead, where are they getting the points from? Is it Montreal and we hope the best, or do you think Quinn comes back, Petey comes back, and suddenly the team is into another gear?
I mean, literally, they have to be, right? Because if Petey and Quinn returning don't make a huge difference, then we're in big trouble. This can't go on. So, yeah, I would say that Montreal really has to be the place where you're picking up points, even though, yeah, I don't even love that idea. And again, let's see where Thatcher comes back. Don't say F.
I'm sorry.
He's not dead.
I'm feeling the pain. We can't have nice things.
I mean, that's evidently true. But, yeah, you've got to think that they're probably targeting the Wednesday game against Washington. If it really is back spasms, a day or two, you've got to say that's the latest.
Trip.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's positive, but...
yeah.
Anyhow. So, put you on the spot. Montreal.
Win.
Points or not? Okay, win. Capitals.
Loss.
Hurricanes.
Loss.
Leafs.
Win.
Oh, whatever. So I'm giving them the win against Montreal, and I'm going to see them lose 3 games.
Honestly, this is me being super positive and just being they're going to stick it to Toronto. I don't think this is the...
Toronto in Toronto on a Saturday night.
Yeah, I don't think this is the start of anything, so don't get me wrong. I don't think this is a turning point. I think they stick it to Toronto as, this big game. I think they, I'm not going to go all the way through stuff, but I think we're on a downward spiral with slightly intermittent signs of life.
If you listen to this episode before the Montreal game, it is another Amazon Prime game.
Well, thank you for letting me know. I did forget about that.
I had never watched an NHL game on Prime.
I still have not.
The last Canucks game, and I have to say, I really appreciated what Prime is doing. You can tune in an hour before the game, and they show it's just camera of the rink. There's no commentary. You get the experience.
Particularly want that from a game, but...
Well, okay.
Because...
Don't tune in an hour early, then.
Sure.
Okay.
It's just when you tune in for a game, I don't want the same experience as going. I want a better experience.
Tune in an hour early. Tune in at the hour. So this is in Montreal, so it'll be 4:30 Pacific. So tune in at 4:30 because the puck that drops a little bit later. They have a panel in the building.
Yes, which is... Yes,
intermission
appreciated.
commentary about the teams. Now, there was some talk about, well, the game, was a Vancouver Canucks home game, but they spent a lot of time talking about the Sharks and Macklin Celebrini coming home and all that. It's not like the Canucks home broadcast. Like, we have to concede that this is a broadcast for two markets.
Right. And like, I agree. And I do appreciate the idea of it not being national centered, which means Toronto centered.
It was Vancouver and San Jose. And like, people are like, oh, I don't like John Forsland. And I can't remember who else it was. I'm like, well, okay. You're not getting, Shorty. Just
no, because I mean, one, we're spoiled, like we have been for a long time with John Shorthouse, Sean Garrett, and now John Shorthouse. And Dave Tomlinson is getting better.
What about Ray?
Ray's good too, but like, he's not there all the time.
No, we get Ray for the US games.
Yeah. And he's good when he comes in, apart from the time, like, I'm sorry that I insulted him about his Noah Jolson take. Because I do love Ray. But yeah, I think...
say it, Ray. We know you listen.
We are spoiled, like, honestly. Like, we've had the best broadcasters in the game for a long time, up until very recently, so... Yeah, I'm excited to see it. The decentralization of sports rights, I do not enjoy. Like, that's what has happened to football. But also the opposite is true in football, because football is, like, Premier League rights are hugely in demand, right? And that's why it ends up going to, it's split between Amazon, TNT, and Sky Sports in the UK.
Fubo here. Right.
But in here, like, no one else wants the rights, right? Like, two Canucks games.
Okay, I was going to say,
yes.
Premier League? Or Slots not the rights.
No, 100%. But, like, so Rogers have no, like, Sportsnet have no incentive to, like, actually be better. Well, and this isn't a shade to, like, Canucks broadcasters, yes, we love the, like, intermission panels, we love our, like, home broadcasters, but yeah, they have no incentive to be better. Like, if they cut out...
That they don't have an incentive to be better. Their incentive is to cater to their market, and the market is not Vancouver.
Right, but, like, if you miss out 5 minutes of a game because the, like...
Streaming service
sucks.
I have the terrestrial service, so it's never a problem. But It's interesting that, like, with Amazon... No problems.
Right.
Like, I was watching it in 4K. The quality was phenomenal. I can't even get that with terrestrial TV. Like, Sportsnet 4K, good luck, unless it's in Toronto.
And I will say Amazon has a pretty bad reputation in every other sport because they don't have the investment, right?
Yeah.
Like football, tennis, F1, all of that.
The other thing that I really enjoyed was that there was an actual post-game.
Well, I do like that too, because, I mean, you get, on Saturday night, you see them who have after hours, and sometimes we see the guys looking all casual when they loosen their ties in the low armchairs, which I hate. I'm like, sirs, you're at work. I don't want to see your socks.
And a hoodie.
Yeah, I don't want to see that. Yeah. But yeah, I appreciate a good post game, so I'm looking forward to that too.
Okay. Well, we will reconvene and talk about this next week after you've had a chance to see the Amazon Prime broadcast. You're listening to the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast, brought to you by Anna and Chris.
Take hitting out of the game. You can't hit anymore, so don't do it.
The unsportsmanlike conduct, I want to get an explanation on that.
No kidding.
Because how do you get suspended for unsportsmanlike conduct?
Plus interference. There's no interference there. He had the puck.
Now, Madison never ever did that before. Now, why did he do it? Because he was mad.
Well, your early favorite for the Calder Trophy, that's for sure. Elias Pettersson, you might even say your early favorite for the Hart Trophy.
Just to get back to your question, Elias is going to play plenty. He didn't play. He's going to get a lot of power play time. And, yeah, I'm concerned about our offense. We lost 200-point players, and we've got to find a way to score.
If you could watch this episode live, you would have noticed that Anna just pulled a magic trick and disappeared from my screen.
I did. I was plugging in the computer.
Okay. I mean, I guess that makes sense. I just couldn't understand. You would just disappear. I'm like, well, I'll just wait. But you know who else has disappeared at times? JT Miller. We're going to talk a little bit about the fact that JT has apparently got some Fs, right? Before you returned, JT got brought back in front of the press and he said, hey, we'll bring Trot Petey out here. Whoops, I hit the mic. And we'll talk together. There's no problem. It's all media. Okay, first and foremost, it ain't all media because your captain and your coach acknowledge there being tough times. So,
plus, since then, there's been a whole parade of personalities coming out and saying it.
Oh, yeah. Like
Eddie Lack, Brad Richardson. Plus media insiders, like, come on.
But his return to the ice, I mean, he was getting assists, but he has not been getting the 5-on-5 goals. I mean, as you put in the rundown here, he's got 2 of them since October. Now, in fairness,
I was trying to remember that. Is that right?
Good time. I think that's right. Like, he has not got, any really 5-on-5 goals since his return for certain. Mm-hmm. But I had mentioned this earlier in Rewind. If you go back to the third period, there was about 3 minutes left in the game. JT Miller recovers a puck in the defensive end, and he just throws it blindly towards the center of the ice. He gives it away. Now, the way the Vancouver Canucks were playing at that point, him trying to get the puck out of the zone was probably the priority. And when it comes to giving the puck away, not ideal, but at least he got it out of the zone. The Vancouver Canucks do not recover the puck. JT Miller, however, decides time to change at the bench and skates from the far boards in the defensive end, just coasting along. Yeah. Meanwhile, Nashville has touched up and they're bringing the puck back in for an offensive zone opportunity. And JT has no Fs left to get himself to the bench. Now, I don't think that resulted in a goal because there was a goaltender and the Vancouver Canucks gave up 2 empty net. But if you're someone, heart on a sleeve, motivational leader or whatever you want to call him, is just coasting off after giving the puck away like he doesn't give a crap anymore, that's a concerning sign. What is going on there?
And I will say that's kind of emblematic of that's happened a few times. Oh, gosh. In the last few weeks since he's been back, right? Like,
what shift was it? Like the second game back in the overtime, where he decided to take a 7-minute shift or whatever it was, and was just completely out of gas. Like, I'm not going to knock him for being out of gas, but you got to know to get off the ice. You don't go and then push that, take that risk, and cough the puck up, which is ultimately what occurred. Something has to come to a head. I mean, Jay and I talked about it. We've both heard, things. What I have heard is that the team has just gotten tired of the drama.
Yes, which is valid, right? Like, so are we. Like, we don't want to be, like, as much as JT and PD have said, media loves to make stuff up, fans love to, amplify it. Like, we don't want to be talking about this. Media doesn't want to be talking about this either. Like, it would be much, they don't need to invent a story, to make Canucks hockey interesting. Like, it would be much more interesting if Canucks were just winning and playing well together.
Yes, I will concede that there are some in the media who are seeing this as an opportunity to gain traction, and rightfully so. Their job is to generate conversation, good, bad, or indifferent. So you have, someone like Elliot Friedman who knows things and is, whether he intended to or not, really, really taking the role of wind-up merchant to heart by sharing.
He doesn't mind it.
The Canucks are definitely looking at the market for both players, and you should be prepared for all outcomes. There's really 3 of them. Neither gets dealt, one of them gets dealt, or both get dealt. So, Anna, which of those 3 outcomes do you think is most likely?
Most likely.
One, both, or neither?
I think neither is the most likely, followed by one, followed by both. I don't remember.
I can't see both.
I can't see it. No, and I did hear someone bring up trading them both to the same team, which, while hilarious, like, I love that idea. Talk about wind-up merchant, but yeah, I can't see that happening. Like, what the hell would you be doing?
The talk about trading both, your top two centers are gone. You got nothing in the...
Like, that's saying we're starting fully again.
Kaboom.
With our captain and best player in his absolute prime.
Well, someone shared this on Twitter. I can't remember their handle, but Taj1944 had retweeted it.
Yeah.
Quinn and Elias share the same agent. So, and, you know, whether it says something or not, Quinn, JT, Petey all at the All-Star game, and Quinn chooses Petey as his alternate. But if you were to trade both Petey and JT, you have to understand that Quinn is likely finding another team to play. Maybe the Devils.
That's the thing. Like, either way, you're wasting Quinn's window, like, whether he's gone or not. The thing is, I don't remember who said it, but, like, I do think it is a defeat if you were trading Pedersen, given you've just invested this huge amount, like, in his contract. And I still don't think that he has been put in a long-term position to succeed. Like, he's had great opportunities, but, like, in terms of, like, putting him with line mates and in, like, a position with his injuries and stuff to succeed, that's partly on the team, partly on Pedersen, and partly just on, like, straight bad luck. But I still don't think we have seen Pedersen at his best in a long-term role. And I do recognize, like, also, I think it was Jeff Fayette who mentioned this, but, like, Miller's been at the center of a few issues.
Well, it's saying it's his first rodeo.
Right,
this
exactly.
Is
like, Shan.
Noted rodeo.
Yes. Like, he's a cowboy, let's be honest. He rubs people up the wrong way. And the thing is, when he is engaged and, like, playing his best hockey, it doesn't matter. And let's be honest, if Canucks' record was better, no one would be talking about this.
No. Well, so, a little off the rails, I'm reading Ed Willis's book, Never Boring, History of the Vancouver Canucks.
That's on my list for sure.
And he, you know, past problems, some of the things he referred to is that some pretty dysfunctional Vancouver Canucks teams have gotten by on success.
Right.
But when the success is not present, the dysfunction is, like, front and center. And this almost feels like the Vancouver Canucks aren't, I mean, you and I had sort of talked about the blue line as a questionable area of the team. This team I think conceded is not better than last year's version, but the success is present, and I think the dysfunction was probably there last season.
Yep.
It just a couple years previous, it was present, like under Bruce and that. But now, I have to wonder, like, the country club atmosphere in the dressing room that the rumor was that apparently isn't present, but the dysfunction still exists, that maybe there's more going on, and they haven't really dealt with whatever the issues might be appropriately. As far as the question I asked you, I have to think one of them gets dealt.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't really think that until maybe this week, how I actually started to think that one of them going is a possibility, and I think it's got to be Miller.
Well, so,
and the problem is,
but as I shared in C4 Discord, when teams are clamoring over players, like teams and fans are like, if Petey's on the market, we got to make a play. That should scare you, because one, that's the player that's probably getting the most inquiries. Not to suggest that there aren't teams out there that want Miller. I think there are.
Yeah.
But you also have to understand that Miller has all of the power. He can simply say no, Petey doesn't. And if the team has this opinion that we have to make a change, it scares me that Petey is just because the kid does not have a no movement clause yet is the solution, because that's not.
And I will say that I do think Patrick Galvin was wrong. Did he have to say, like...
Threw everyone under the bus.
And I get that. Like, he was just trying to, like, sort of lay, like,
missing your PD check
warning
under the
shot.
tires.
Yeah, warning shot, right? But I'm just like... I don't know if that was, like, a fun way to do it, but whatever. Like, the rumors, obviously, today from Freeman is that one team that Miller might be interested in is the Rangers. And the Rangers are struggling.
I can't believe I'm going to say this, but Paul Bissonnette had referred to the fact that Chris Drury would do things to get JT Miller. I'm paraphrasing.
Oh, I actually haven't seen that, but I can imagine what Paul Bissonnette said, knowing his reputation.
Yeah. So, I mean, if that, like, and there's some thought that maybe JT would go back if New York would take him.
And they are, like, I mean, they're struggling. They need to do something, right? Mm-hmm. They need to make a big splash. That would be a big splash. How about a Miller for Miller trade? Mm. I would take Keandre Miller off their hands if...
Yeah. You personally?
Yes. No, that sounded super weird.
Hey, you're the one who...
I do not want to take custody of Keandre Miller. But yes, like, I do know, like, obviously Friedman said, like, they want a center in return. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying we don't need a center. Like, JT Miller, that's our second line slash first line center, depending how you look at it, going.
If the Canucks don't get a center back, we need a center.
Yes, we do. But we also do need defense. Like, we just do.
Okay.
Like, but that was true before this whole JT PD thing blew up, so I actually don't know what to do.
With you saying it, I actually, if it meant that the Vancouver Canucks blue line was better,
if we took a first line
and we
defenseman,
lost the center,
would you be okay with that if we'd got a first line blue line guy?
I think I could accept that, because you can, like, the Vancouver Canucks, you know, depth chart ain't too deep, but if you can get a serviceable fourth line center and a serviceable third line center, and I'd like to think the Vancouver Canucks could probably plug those two holes up, you have the ability to elevate. Yeah, they need to be considerably better in the blue line. Like, that would be it. You can't just go.
It needs to be huge.
Guys,
don't get me wrong. Yeah. Like, and
wingers and picks.
Yeah, I get it. Like, I'm also terrified of, like, looking down that center line without JT. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard because it's like, as soon as Quinn Hughes comes back, it's a different team, right?
Yeah, and he might be back in Montreal for all we know. Here we are, a little bit over an hour, maybe a little under an hour. I don't know. Pretty close to it. You're going to be at the PWHL game on Wednesday. And,
very excited.
That is, I think, going to be a fun night. I don't know what ticket sales are like. I didn't see.
Yeah,
what was going
I'm not
on
sure
Seattle.
too. But like, if you're in town, maybe check it out, because it's much more reasonable than going to a Canucks game.
Certainly.
And like, the fact that we get to see a PWHL game, like, in our hometown, like, considering the furthest west team is Minnesota, like, I do think that's cool. And I'm very excited that happens to be the team that I have picked to root for, Montreal. And they're actually good this year.
Watching the Canucks at a bar, and then you'll go to
I mean, I do have this thing called a job, but, you know.
Sick.
Yeah. I was going to say, yeah, I'll be cheering on Canucks and then Montreal. That's going to be confusing.
I will not be at Raj with you, unfortunately.
Sadly.
I have come to realize that the next 2 months are going to be crazy busy for me because my wife and I decided to ensure that our daughter was registered and everything.
I mean, I love that for Ari. But yeah, best of luck to both of you.
Yeah, and because I work from home, tend to do the lion's share of, transportation and supportive parent. And not to suggest that my wife isn't. She totally is. It's just she has to go into an office, and commuting in Metro Vancouver ain't that fun.
Yes.
So,
different roles.
yeah, totally. If you reach this point of the show, though, I do mention that you can follow us on all the social media platforms. We're on Blue Sky or on Threads, X, Twitter, whatever the heck it's called. You can go to our website, c4podcast.com. You can join Discord, discord.com/C4 podcast. You can throw a few bucks our way, either as a one-off to help Anna and I soak our Canucks tears in a pint or two at buymeacoffee.com/C4 podcast. Buy me a coffee, which Anna and I like to call
Buy me a pint.
And if you are so inspired, you could actually support us either on a monthly or annual basis. And in doing so, that gets you one of those exclusive C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast stickers, which I know isn't that exclusive in the UK, but I can tell you Anna did not take a buttload with her this trip.
No, so there is no more.
The exclusivity is increasing.
So true.
But any final words of wisdom for everyone this week, Anna?
Allez la victoire. Oui. C'est ça.
Let's go, Victoire. Yes, that's it.
Right.
I think if I understood you correctly. Final words of wisdom from me. Always remember to have your calendar in front of you when you're signing your kid up for activities, because you can't be in two places at once.
Yet. We're still trying.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if in my lifetime that will be possible.
You gotta believe.
Maybe in yours. So on behalf of Anna, 84603, myself, Chris at Lightforce, I'm signing off this episode with We Out.